Thanks for tuning in and welcome to Marketing Bites, Restaurant Growth Unwrapped. I'm your host, Brian Siemienas, the Vice President of Restaurant Solutions for Nift. Today, I welcome our guest, Monique Waldrop, Chief Marketing Officer for our restaurant group. Welcome, Monique.
Hi, Brian. So nice to see you.
So nice to see you as well. And like myself, you've lived in Orlando for most of your working career and have worked for a number of great restaurant brands, including Sonny's, Tony Roma's, Tijuana Flats. How have these experiences helped shape you to get to where you are today?
Yeah, so it's wild that we've been in the same town for so long. And working with such iconic and varied brands, for me anyway, has taught me to be able to adapt my marketing approach to fit a brand's identity and audience. And it's allowed me to pivot quickly sometimes when needed. Specifically at Sonny's, I learned the power really of tradition and longstanding tradition. At Tony Roma's gave me the appreciation for global and international brand perspectives and growing a brand internationally. And at Flats, at that time when I was with Tijuana Flats, I experienced the fun and irreverent side of that branding. So each stop that I've had has given me a different muscle. Whether it's brand positioning, local store marketing, or digital transformation, all of those brands have played into the experiences that I've had. I've also been with a lot of other brands when I had my own business. So it really has allowed me to be sort of a different kind of marketer, being able to pivot with each brand.
So you've been with 4R Restaurant Group, which is mainly Four Rivers Smokehouse, one of my favorite barbecue places. Thrilled you're now open on Sundays because it's amazing.
Yes.
How many Sundays I wanted to go and couldn't go. But,
yes.
For those not familiar with the brand, can you share the details and also talk about the great story of how John started the brand?
Yeah, so it actually is it really is an iconic, great brand. I'm so blessed to be at Four Rivers now. We have 15 smokehouses currently, and we have one on the way at the Villages. It started in 2009, actually before 2009, way back when John Rivers was doing a fundraiser. He was raising money for a young girl who was battling cancer. And through that fundraiser, he began like sort of a charitable cookout. Quickly, it gained traction. He raised a lot of money for this young girl. And that passion that he had for that project turned into literally the restaurant brand. And in 2009, he opened the first smokehouse in Winter Park. And it's grown from there, always with the community, the peace, love for the greater good at the heart of what we do, the barbecue ministry at the heart of what we do. And it's about serving purpose with every plate that goes out, with every guest that we serve, and we serve with purpose. And that's really the whole essence of what he has tried to do with starting this brand.
And as part of that, food's phenomenal, barbecue's incredible, award-winning, but philanthropy is a huge part of the brand DNA and, what he's established there, throughout the organization. Can you explain the 4R Foundation as well as the Four Roots Farm Campus and what that means, not only to him and the employees, but, in the brand perspective as well?
Sure. So it really is. A lot of brands say they're community focused. A lot of brands say they do the local thing. But this whole brand was established based on that. And being a part of this community, last year alone, for a brand as small as we are, and I got to remember, we only have 15 locations. For a brand as small as we are, we gave over $300,000 to the local communities that we serve, to over 100 organizations. That's with our general managers in our restaurants, whether it was food, cash, whatever it was for Advent Health or for cancer fighting programs, we gave back to the community. And that's really been our whole mantra. Last year, at the end of our 15-year anniversary, we went to neighborhoods, various neighborhoods, at-risk neighborhoods, and we just gave out food. We didn't get pressed for it. We didn't tell everybody about it. We just showed up and gave out food to communities that needed it. And I think that's really what our brand is about. John started the Four Roots Farm Campus. It's his passion to fix food insecurity. He often says that you can't solve food insecurity by just donating food, and you have to build sustainable food practices. You have to inspire and educate and get people to believe in the food, and that food is a force for good, and that people can grow from and fixing a broken food system. It's a space where students, farmers, chefs, families, they all come together to learn sustainable food practices. They have various programs in the farm. It's located in the packing district right near downtown Orlando. We have a Meet the Need program where we give food, fresh produce to neighborhoods that need it the most. We have the Culinary Health Institute. We have programs for schools, education. Valencia does their agricultural class at the Education Center at the Four Roots Farm. So it really is, to me, I always say this about John, he's a disruptor in this world that created something that no one else has. And so I think that as his passion continues to grow, Four Roots will be even more prominent in this area. And hopefully, his goal of solving the world's food issue, this is a step forward to that.
So, Monique, pretty interesting. Just as you're talking, and I'm always envious with myself at Margaritaville, at Darden, and with Hard
Mm-hmm.
Rock. Never got to work with the founder, who its vision. Got to spend some quality time with Isaac Tigrett, one of the co-founders of Hard Rock, which is just
Mm-hmm.
incredible. But you obviously now have John Rivers, who is the founder. When you were at Tijuana Flats back then, were you still with the founding team?
I was
And then
able to.
Sonny's as well, the family still. So
Yeah.
you've had three brands where you've actually worked with the founders of the
Yes.
brands. I mean,
Yes.
that's pretty incredible as a marketer to, we've all had the mantras, the, mission statements, but you literally have been able to walk down the hall to the person that when store one, I don't know what Sonny's up to. I mean, there's a ton of locations. I know Tijuana Flats before they sold and had their problems, but what's that like to be, I mean, three times is pretty incredible.
It really is. It's funny. I love working with these guys. To me, they're not your typical CEO. They're definitely not your typical CEO. None of them have been. They are all very entrepreneurial. They are all and very different. They were all very different. John, I'm fortunate because John really gets branding and marketing. And so, he's just got a mind that is just visionary. Now, there's a million ideas that come out of it, so you can't do all of them. And I've been fortunate enough where the founders that I've worked with have always been very inclusive. They've always listened. They've always surrounded themselves with great talent and great people, which I think is a testament to who each of them were or are. Each of them are really. To me, it's been a fascinating ride with definitely founders, and I've worked with some just regular CEOs that as well. That it's a very different mindset for sure. But it's actually really fun if you can go with the flow, and be able to be that person who's not always saying yes. You have to be able to say no, or at least provide data points as to why something may or may not work. They listen and they get it, and that's why they have you. So I've really been fortunate that way.
Okay, so getting back to Four Rivers, what's your marketing approach for the brand, which obviously is so critical?
Yeah, so we are very hyper local. It's a storytelling based, community driven marketing strategy. We use digital when we need to meet our guests where they are. I know you've heard that probably said multiple times before, but we have a lot of new guests that come into our restaurant, and we have a lot of members of our loyalty fan group that are coming to our restaurant. So we really try to focus on authentic content, partnerships that elevate the brand. We've done partnerships with like Salty Donut. We have a partnership with Lime Fresh. We've done several things like that that try to elevate the brand in the neighborhoods that we serve. And at the end of the day, again, I just want to emphasize that we're not just trying to market barbecue. We're trying to market belonging and togetherness. So I think that is really what makes us different. That and our food, it's not just the regular barbecue meats. It's John's Originals. I mean, we have very different items on our menu than any other barbecue brand. We have what's called the 6-shooter that incorporates cheese grits in the item. We were probably one of the first to create the barbecue Cuban, the messy pig. I mean, all the John's Originals that have created a classic in our brand is very different than any other barbecue brand.
Okay, and as far as the brand, Winter Garden one is the closest one to me, so that's where
Okay.
I go. Also go to the Gainesville one, which we'll get into some of our football rivalry later. Gainesville's got the bakery there. Winter Garden
Yep.
sort of has a small display case. Is there a specific has the brand evolved to the full blown bakery, and how did that come about?
Yeah. So John loves sweets, and we have a head bakery chef. She's an executive bakery chef. She runs our bakery program. We do a lot of wholesale bakery. We do a lot of regular bakery and specialty cakes. We do very elegant and extravagant wedding cakes in our markets. So it's sort of a gamut. You can go to our website and see all the different specialty cakes that we can provide and specialty desserts. I had our stuff for my wedding 3 years ago. I had pie shots and cake balls and all these very what's the word I'm looking for? Decadent
Decadent. There you go.
decadent desserts, and they're just fabulous. So we do have a bakery that's going full blown in the Longwood location. So that'll have like you'll be able to get cakes there and such. So it's definitely part of our DNA.
Okay, so being in the restaurant industry right now, both of us have been in it many years. Not the best of times. A lot of challenges with the consumer sentiment, with the economy. How are you guys dealing, especially the value? I mean, you're dealing in a category, a lot of protein, a lot of beef, higher cost, but what's your
Oh,
play on value that you guys are doing to try to meet those consumers that just love you but aren't there anymore, with disposable income?
yeah. So we just recently actually introduced a bundled family value meal because again we realize that a lot of our base are families, and we understand that everybody's going through a tough time. So we have these family value meals that provide super large portions of pulled pork and pulled chicken. And we even have a taco kit that they can get to at a very reasonable price. I think it's like $35.99 to feed a family to four. We also have limited time offers that offer our guests quality. We have currently the most popular one we have is the Spud Love, which is a large, oversized baked potato with protein and toppings on it. And it's very reasonably priced as well. So we are trying to find that happy medium because it's not always about price, right? Value is not always about price. It's about the experience. It's about the connection with the people. We're doubling down on our hospitality and consistency within the restaurants. Those things cost nothing, but they deliver big when it comes to our guests and our focus on uncompromising food quality.
Okay, getting into another area, third party delivery. How are
Yeah.
you approaching that? How impactful or how much, of your sales are, relying on that? I know catering's a big deal for you guys, but
Yeah.
I see the messaging direct. If you can just talk a little bit on the third party and the catering.
Yeah, third party delivery, we're very active in it. We view it as a very critical access point, especially post pandemic. I don't think people have slowed down using it. We also manage it very, very carefully. to protect our brand integrity. Anything from packaging to the presentation that you get in the restaurant. We want the at-home experience to feel as close to the dine-in one as possible. And we know that's not completely impossible. So we really do focus and hone in on making sure that the items are accurate, that you're getting what you ordered and you're getting what you paid for. And we really are hyper focused on that internally with our teams.
Okay, moving on to loyalty, you touched upon the importance earlier. And I can't remember, I know the loyalty program slightly changed. I wasn't sure if that was after you came on board the brand, but how are you approaching loyalty, and what adjustments have you made on the loyalty program since you came on board?
Well, we have a very robust loyalty program. We have 800,000, over 800,000 either members of email or actual loyalty points driven individuals. So we believe it to be very essential. We've made strategic enhancements to it, such as single sign-on in the app, payment processing a little bit easier, personalized offers. We're trying to create more emotional value as well. So access to seasonal items. It's not just a rewards engine. We're trying to use it to build relationships. We're hosting an event at our office this coming week. We have a special curated. It's actually the 24th of June. We have a special curated menu that John's created. He'll do a demo, and it's an evening with John Rivers at our offices, and it's a ticketed event, and our loyalty members are offered those tickets to purchase, and they can come in and have a full course dinner, and they'll have specialty prizes and gifts and things like that. So we don't just use it as like this points driver. We want to provide fun, value, involvement with our guests, and so we're constantly engaging that.
Okay, and continuing along the technology line, certainly AI, a lot in that when it comes to for us marketers, as well as in the restaurant space, in the restaurant itself. How are you guys playing technology both from a marketing and overall restaurant standpoint, to make life easier, as well as shifting what used to take some locations and some employees hours to do, where the technology is now doing it in a matter of minutes?
Yeah. So you know what? I think any restaurant is gonna. We all say we're tech forward, and we are, but we have a lot of improvement to do. We have a lot of things that we can do better. There's always going to be the technology piece is always going to be forward and progressive. And so I truly believe that you will never get to the end result with technology. You're only going to keep getting better and better and better and better and more seamless for our guests. We're very intentional about technology. We want it to support our systems, not complicate them even more. We use it for inventory, for labor optimization. We definitely use it for guest data, marketing analysis, and mobile ordering. But we're also very mindful not to lose the human touch. That person at the door that still says hello to you. That is something that's still really very important to us. So we want that technology to enhance the hospitality, but not to replace it.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were talking earlier before we started recording about the marketing workshop conference, and have been fortunate to go to a couple different ones.
Mm-hmm.
And your last statement is exactly one of them that, a lot in the industry tends to be, I'd say, those of us that have been around a little bit, is the whole thing about the hospitality is it's the human interaction.
It
And,
is.
there's some that literally, and hey, I've been there. I'll always use the example, my Starbucks app. If I can literally never walk, I order what I want, I walk in, I walk out, maybe I'll say hi if someone says hi to me, and I'm done with it. But, you're dead on, especially in so many experiences, whether it's casual dining, fast casual, where people want that experience, that interaction. I don't want to order from a kiosk. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And, it's just interesting, that you brought it up, because there was one speaker at a recent conference who literally had it like, yeah, you could almost go employee list to a degree, other than, fine tuning it. And I'm like, well, yeah, you can. And then, I was part of that when I was reefed during COVID and people couldn't go out to eat. That's
Mm-hmm.
why third party came so big, but there was that pent up demand, and why all the restaurants in Florida a little bit earlier than the rest of the world, and what was it, maybe 21, when that pent up demand of people just wanting to go out for that interactive dining experience rather than
Absolutely.
just, okay, send it to me, leave it on my front door, whatever it may be.
It's funny, even with third party, um, whether or not there was an issue or not with the third party order, you still reach out. There are still people in third party who reach out and want to talk to somebody. And whether that's for a good thing or maybe something that they want to fix or whatever it is, I really think you can't lose the human touch. It's called hospitality for a reason. It's called, people still want to go out to dinner. They still want to enjoy special times with friends, family, whoever. I don't think we can lose that piece of it. I just think we have to enhance our technology. Again, I'm 100% believer that we never get to the end result with technology because it's always evolving. You'll always just get better and better, and hopefully that's what the goal is, to always just get better.
Okay, so talking about getting better, important in the marketing world for us is ratings and reviews. When we both first started off, not as much easier life for a marketer because
Yeah.
now people don't have a concern sharing their opinion, and you never know what's going to go viral, what's not. But how do you at the brand approach ratings and reviews, feedback, and how do you handle those guest complaints and those poor reviews, especially?
I would say with humility and a sense of urgency. um, we view our the feedback that we get, whether it's online or Ovation, which is what we use in our restaurants. No matter where it's at, every piece of feedback is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to wow a guest. It's an opportunity to make a guest happy. So we respond very quickly. We take it offline if we need to, but we always aim to make it right. And we do so by apologize. I mean, we apologize if there was an issue. Our goal isn't just to resolve it; it's to win their trust back and bring them back into our restaurant and show them that we are better and we make it right for them. So, I mean, we do it very, very quickly with a sense of urgency and a lot of humility.
Yeah, no, and it's one of those, like, we all as marketers, we walk in and there's just nothing worse than when you see something going wrong and oh geez, this isn't the way it's supposed to be. But Zach Oates at Ovation actually was one of the speakers at the marketing workshop
Yeah.
conference last week, and he showed a slide that's pretty interesting and did not advise it as a marketing strategy. But if a guest has an issue and you resolve it, they're more likely to return than any other guest.
Yeah.
So, it's almost like, okay, screw up on purpose, strategy to try to get that
Oh,
repeat guest visitation. But he didn't advise it, although a couple of people did say it wouldn't be a bad one. But, you're right. There's nothing better than when you can recover a guest. And, the thing throughout my career, and yes, there's always going to be the scammers that we face, but, I would hate the approach. And at times we send it to feel, oh, well, that didn't happen here. Yeah, it probably did. And even if
yeah.
it didn't, for the, two or three that maybe are going to pull the fast one, what about the other 97 that it actually did? So that's the type of person you are. Fine, here's, get a freebie, or make
Right,
good,
right,
whatever it is, on me,
right,
rather than
right.
trying to catch that small percentage versus those that, I mean, we've all been there. We've sat in our own
Absolutely.
restaurants or other restaurants where, oh geez, and it's a matter of, does the manager come over and acknowledge it, or do they hope it's just going to
Absolutely.
go away?
Right. Ovation is great for that. I'll tell you. They allow you to, I could be their commercial really. They allow it, the system allows you to respond very quickly via text. I can't tell you how many guests, because I get all of them, I receive all of them at night. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a guest say, wow, I'm so impressed you got back to me so fast. Thank you so much. I mean, it's just, it really is an innovative system. And I do think it really does win the guest back.
Okay, so obviously a lot of data coming in from Ovation. You talked about your 800,000 loyalty members. You got third party. You got first party catering. You got a lot of data coming in. So
Yeah.
what are you doing to manage it? That's one of the other big hot buttons is companies just being overwhelmed with data. How are you utilizing it to be able to make the decisions you need to be successful?
Yeah, so we monitor and provide reporting for operational data like ticket times, order accuracy. We're always trying to our teams and operations is always trying to improve throughput. We utilize those systems and those behavioral program or data driven software programs that we use to analyze the trends, social sentiment, market share. We synthesize it all to inform menu development, staffing decisions, customer experience. It's a loop. We learn, adapt, repeat, and we have a constant loop for it. We report on it by period. We make sure that they're actionable items that operations can act upon.
Okay. And as a marketer, we said earlier, you got a lot on your plate. What's the thing that keeps you awake at nights and, as you're sitting there contemplating before you go to bed?
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I'm always about people, right? So I'm always trying to make sure that all my people are taken care of, they're developed, they're getting all the things that they need to do. So if there's probably anything that keeps me up at night, it's making sure that I'm doing my best for them.
Okay. Speaking of
Honestly.
people, one of my favorite parts of the episode is where I dive into some details on getting to know my guests better. So, we're
Okay.
going to move into the section of some personal questions, nothing that's, out there. But first and foremost, if you can go back and give yourself advice as you started your career, what would it be?
So let me think about this one for a minute. I would say for my younger self, trust your instincts, and don't let fear of being different keep you from speaking up. Especially for a female in the restaurant business, especially at the time I started way back when. God, that dated me. Ugh. But sometimes speaking up wasn't the thing that you did. But I guarantee now that I know better, speaking up is definitely the perspective that they need to hear. And so I would just say to people to trust your instincts and don't let fear take a hold of you. Make sure you're speaking up and giving your opinion because your opinion is valued and important.
When you were in elementary school, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I wanted to be a rock star.
Okay.
I'm not even kidding. Joe Jett was like my favorite rock star, and I wanted to be like Joe Jett. I wanted to be a rock star on stage. I can't sing a lick, by the way.
Okay. So no going through that, just hoping that maybe just
Yeah,
magically your voice
yeah.
would develop.
No, gosh.
Okay, so you mentioned Joan Jett,
Yep.
excuse me. So, favorite musician or rock band?
So she's actually my favorite musician. Rock band is probably Aerosmith.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah, they're my favorite. I've seen them. I was able to see them in concert before they took a hiatus.
okay.
But
So,
yeah, by
so
far.
Monique, I'm gonna make you jealous. So,
Okay.
when I was at Hard Rock, probably one of my most unique experiences is we did a big festival in London, Hard Rock Hallway in Hyde Park, 3 days, 50 to 80,000. Our inaugural one was with Aerosmith. It was 2 days back to back.
Oh God.
Well, no, it gets better. You're
Wow.
going to really be upset. They wanted to kick off their European tour, announcing the festival and the tour, and they did a live performance in the Hard Rock Cafe in London, which has
Oh my
150
gosh.
person capacity. So it was the most intimate set they've
Oh
probably
my
done in a long
gosh.
time. So it was
I can't
definitely one
even.
of the highlights.
Oh my gosh. Do you have pictures from that?
I actually do, but they're not very good because I was so close. Like
Oh God.
literally,
You're so
Steven was
close.
2 feet away from me because the way the stage was and the way the setup was. But
Gosh.
I will definitely share. I've got some video from it as well. And then fast forward the actual festival. Uh, like typical marketers, you always want to create that unique, buzzworthy. How are you going to get PR? Aerosmith
Yeah.
and Hyde Park certainly is newsworthy, but so we worked very closely with Daryl McDaniels, who is a good friend of Hard Rock, and we brought
Okay.
him over, and Steven had him join them on stage for Walk This Way, which had been the
Wow.
first time they
Wow.
did that in probably 20 some years. So
Ah, that's fantastic.
I do a
So
video of I do a video of that for you that I'll share.
I would love to see it. And I bought tickets to a show. They were going to launch a London show again, probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And I bought tickets. I had tickets and I had air flights, and my sister lived in London. My sister lives in London. So I was flying over with my daughter because it's her favorite band too. We were staying with my sister in London and we were going to go see him. And then he got hurt and canceled and sick and whatever and hasn't been able to reschedule since. So, uh, love Steven Tyler and Aerosmith. And
What's your favorite activity
so
when not
jealous.
What's your favorite activity when not working?
So I love movies. I love to go to the movies. I love watching concerts. Love seeing live music. I love Auburn football games. And I love hanging out with my kids, my family.
Okay, getting in it, you brought it up, so let's get there. You and I are similar age. We attended, you were at Auburn, I was SEC, I
Florida.
was Florida. Now,
Hmm.
I will say before we get into it, War Eagle, I am a huge Auburn fan within the SEC. And the reason
Wow.
being is, if you remember back then, we were tiny, the SEC. It wasn't the 48 teams or God knows how many are in there now. But we would play
Yeah.
you guys every year. And that was one of the road trips I went to.
Yeah.
And beautiful campus, the drive, from Atlanta. You guys unfortunately beat us. You
I remember.
were very hospitable, as hospitable as you can be. Not like those behemoths in Tennessee that I'll never go watch a game there again because they're just horrible human beings. But
Right?
you guys were awesome. And we were driving home and got pulled over by a state trooper. I was not driving, my buddy was. And he pulled us over. He looks and he's like, you guys have had a crappy enough day seeing us in our Gator outfit and just left it.
Yeah, that's funny.
But I loved, and it was the first away game where I realized, and my first question to you is, were you one of those that wore the formal attire or were you casual?
Yeah,
Because
I did.
formal.
Yes, formal.
So
Pantyhose and
what?
all. Back
Okay.
then it was pantyhose. Yeah, you wore pantyhose and dresses and yep, yep.
So explain what the males and the females wore at games when it was 85, 90 degrees in the heat of the
Yeah.
sun, the fall.
Heels, pantyhose, dress, and suits. And it was an all day event. So your date would pick you up, take you to breakfast, depending upon the time of the game, would take you to the game. After the game, you would change, and then you would go to the band party after. So it was a full on date day at Auburn football games. And they
Yeah.
still do that today. They still do this today.
Do most of them still do it, or is it just some of them?
No, no, if you look in the stands, there's a whole slew of people dressed in suits and dresses.
Yeah, in
Their
Florida, we
dresses are a little bit different than our dresses were back then, but they're
yeah. So the change in Florida, they still wear, they don't dress up, but they now wear, the females wear cowboy boots, which it's happened. I
yes,
noticed a couple of years ago. I'm a season ticket holder, and so not nearly how you guys do, and I believe Bama does the same, and a couple of other schools
yes,
do it, but I don't know, because it is a little bit warmer, I think, down here throughout the season than it is in Auburn and Alabama. But well, I know
sure,
Auburn is in Alabama. I meant University of
yes,
Alabama.
yes, yes,
So I think it never really took hold. Although I will say, my son, when he pledged, they had to wear nice clothes to 2 or 3 games during their pledge season, but no one else did.
yeah. It was definitely. I mean, you didn't. Yeah, it was definitely a thing. That was definitely a thing. It was. Today I would never do it, but um, but back then that's how you went to football games. It was an event.
Okay, what's your most memorable game you attended?
Oh my gosh, the 2010 Iron Bowl.
Okay,
Yeah, for sure. Auburn came back from uh, the 24 zip game with yeah, that would have to be it against Alabama.
okay, and is that your favorite rivalry?
Well, so because I live in Florida, I love to have the rivalry with the Gators. Because it's fun. And it's close to home because I grew up in Florida. I went to Auburn, but I grew up here, and so it's always going to be Alabama, right? That's always the electric. That's always the biggest one. But because of my hometown and because my brothers are Gators and my friends are Gators, it's a lot of fun to actually have that rivalry too.
Yeah. So
So,
so given that, are there too many teams in the SEC? Once every 4 years, you'll play at least every team. Back when we
well,
both were at school, we played every year almost.
Yeah, I know. It kind of went to every other year. One year it
Yeah.
would be y'all, then it would be Tennessee.
Yep.
It kind of went back and forth between the two. Now there's so many. You know, it's hard to say. As long as they can keep the passion in the game of college football, I'm all for it. It's but once they lose the passion and the rivalry, then it's done for. Hopefully that stays. I think it's hysterical that Texas is in there. Like it's mind blowing to me, but whatever. Okay. I like to say the SEC is the best. It's the best of the best. So, okay.
Yeah, I guess we're still lucky. We don't have. I look at the Big Ten, and literally, I feel for some of those teams having to go from New York all the way out to California. At least we've stopped at Texas for now.
Right? Gosh.
But as we know, unfortunately, and I'm with you, I just get concerned, with the nil and college football is just changing. I mean, the
It
players
is.
staying for 4 years, and someone said, "Oh, the coaches' polls are coming out." So I'm like, "Who cares? Like, they don't
Yeah.
mean anything anymore." I mean, in the old days, okay, you'd graduate 2 or 3, you'd have your core come back. Nowadays, who knows what you picked up during the transfer portal, who left, who whatever, and
It's
I just
brutal.
worry. I hope that Saban and some of the stuff they're talking
Yes.
about with him comes to fruition. Otherwise, it's literally going to be pretty much the NFL, except they're on our college campuses.
It's the one thing with Saban. I'm like, go boy, go buddy, go coach.
Yeah, the only time you said "Go Nick," I'm sure
Yeah,
probably
the
is.
only time for real.
So moving away from football, what's your favorite city and or country to visit?
So, well, okay. So I have a vacation plan to San Diego, and I'm told that my new favorite city is going to be that. But actually, it's Washington D.C. And I say that because I think the process of being a U.S. American citizen is fantastic, and it's like no other country in the world, and it all happens in D.C. And so it doesn't matter who's president. It doesn't matter whether I like him, don't like him, none of that stuff. I just mean the process of being a U.S. American citizen and being in a free country. To me, is Washington D.C.
And you will love San Diego. And the best part is the airport literally is right there. And, so it's one you land and you're in the city. So it's probably also one of the most convenient airports to get in and out
Oh,
of
really? Oh, that's
if you're
good to
staying
know.
in the city. So
We are
it's
staying at Mission Beach.
okay. Yeah,
I'm
great.
super excited. I've never been to San Diego. I'm super excited to go to the zoo and all those kinds of things. So it's exciting.
Okay. What are you most proud of in your professional career?
Oh, goodness. Hopefully, that I've been able to build brands that matter, create teams that thrive, and have created other leaders in the industry. I think you've even met one of them, or you know one of them. But hopefully those people, the people that have worked with me in the past, I've created an environment where they exceed in the future, and hopefully that's my legacy. Again, I go back to the people, and hopefully I've developed them enough to they still remember nuggets maybe from me or pieces of information. I know I still talk to a lot of them, so I really do love the people that I've had the opportunity to work with now and in the past.
Yeah, but I do know one. I think we're talking about the same one. Definitely has nothing but great words to say about you.
Oh,
So,
that's sweet. Thank you. That's
okay. And
nice.
what is something most people don't know about you?
Most people don't know I'm classically trained in piano. How about
Okay.
that?
So I'm going to delve now a couple deeper. So we're going to go a little longer. What a regular piano lessons? How do you get?
Mhm.
What was the process for that?
Yeah, I took lessons from the time I was probably 5 or 6 years old.
Okay, you
I
still
was
play?
playing.
Still
I was
play? I
playing.
mean, one that you compete ever?
I don't compete anymore. I used to. I did go to competitions and such. Now I just play for if I need to de-stress, decompress. Um, Pounding on the keys is sometimes very helpful. So I actually it's an exercise.
And are you one of those fun ones at the party that I could throw out any song and
Oh,
you can start playing, or do you need sheet music?
nope. Nope. I need sheet music. I'm a classically trained, so I cannot do it by ear, although I have family members that can. I am not one of them. But I can play some party. I can play some party songs like "Don't Stop Believin'," Journey, and I can play some of those kinds of things
Okay.
to get the party going.
Okay, and I'm sure from lessons, holiday, you can play those when the
Oh,
holidays are
sure,
around.
sure.
So
Yep.
yeah, that's what my two daughters got trained on piano. And the only thing two things was, one, can you learn some Billy Joel song, and number two, being able to play the holiday music was.
Yes.
And then they
Yep.
both gave it up and can't do it. We still, the
Oh,
piano's sitting there and barely gets touched. But
I'm sorry to hear that. Well, you know what? You can always take it up again. They can always take it up again if they choose to.
absolutely,
It
well,
is. I am glad that I have that in my background that I can actually go and read sheet music and play a song.
no, definitely has to be a great distressor at the end
Yeah,
of a
it
long
is.
day.
It is for sure.
Okay, well, that's unfortunately all the time we have for this episode. Monique, thank you so much for joining, sharing your story, talking about the brand. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you asking.
And thank you to everyone for joining us. And here's to celebrating the industry we love and serve. Until next time, stay hungry for success.